Okay, let's get into it. Picture this. It's 2025. An executive order drops. A direct command from the White House. The mission? Build a national fortress of digital gold. And the mandate? It's dead simple. Do not sell the Bitcoin. But wait. Then, you hear whisper, an intelligence bombshell, a rumor that a rogue agency just went completely off the books and defied a direct presidential order. And right here, this is the battlefield. On one side, you have the official order from the top. Hold the line. But on the other, a shocking leak. The word is the Department of Justice, they quietly sold off 57 Bitcoin from that Samourai Wallet seizure. Now look, this isn't about 57 coins. No way. This forces us to ask one critical question.
So what are we looking at here? Is this just some big bureaucratic screw-up? You know, some low-level agent who just didn't get the memo? Or is this a message? The first shot fired in a secret war for the future of money. A straight-up betrayal from inside the government itself. To really get what's at stake, you have to understand the document at the very center of this whole story.
And that document is this hypothetical Executive Order 14233, signed in March of 2025. Now, it might not have made huge headlines at the time, but in this scenario, listen to me, this could become the single most important piece of paper in the entire crypto world. It's nothing less than a declaration of intent. Here's the absolute game changer. So for years, the US Marshals would grab Bitcoin and then just auction it off, right? To the highest bidder. Well, EO 14233 rips up that entire playbook. It reclassifies all government-seized Bitcoin as a strategic national reserve. And let's be crystal clear, this isn't a suggestion. It is a legal mandate. The government is forbidden from selling. Period.
And just like that, the United States becomes one of the biggest Bitcoin whales on the planet. We're talking over 200,000 coins. That makes them a bigger player than almost any corporation on Earth. And the official word? It backs all this up. Patrick Witt, the hypothetical director of the President's Digital Asset Council, he goes on record, denies the rumors, and says flatly, those assets will remain on the U.S. balance sheet.
Okay. Now for the fun part. Let's run the numbers. Let's see how this one policy could trigger the biggest supply shock in the history of finance. Because if this order holds, the economic impact is, well, it's absolutely staggering.
So it all starts right here. The unchangeable, unshakable foundation of this entire thesis, absolute scarcity. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. That number is law. You can't alter it, you can't inflate it away. It is absolute. Now you take that absolute scarcity and you slam the door shut on 200,000 of those coins. Just think about that for a second. The BlackRock ETF is already a giant vacuum cleaner, sucking up thousands of coins a week. Well, the US government just took a pile of supply bigger than what most countries have in gold, locked it in a vault, and threw away the key. Forever. And then the real fireworks kick off. Because it's not just about holding what they've already seized. Oh no. Senator Cynthia Lummis is pushing a plan for the US to not just keep its coins, but to go out into the market and actively buy 1 million more. That's almost 5% of the total supply being bought up by the most powerful entity on the planet. Can you even imagine? Think about it. Basic economics tells you, when demand is forced up by law and supply is locked in a vault, price doesn't just climb, it teleports. And this isn't some wild theory from the internet. Experts like Cathie Wood are already updating their models. Her new target, if nations start treating Bitcoin like a reserve asset, it isn't some fantasy number. It's $1 million per coin. And this right here, this is the next phase. Geopolitical game theory. You think China and Saudi Arabia are just going to sit back and watch the US corner the market on a new global reserve asset? No way. This triggers national-level FOMO. It forces central banks everywhere to ask, what if the dollar weakens and we're left holding zero Bitcoin? It becomes a global arms race, but for digital assets. But we have to go back to that leak. We have to address the elephant in the room, because that Samourai Wallet rumor, it threatens to unravel this entire bullish case. This isn't just about policy anymore. This is about a war being fought in the shadows. Look, if the DOJ really did sell those coins, defying a direct executive order, it's not a mistake. It's a message. It's an act of open defiance. It's proof of a deep internal war, an act of pure sabotage by a faction that wants to see this entire policy burn to the ground. So this is the real fight, a battle between two powerful opposing forces right inside Washington. On one side, you've got the White House, looking to embrace Bitcoin as a strategic asset.
And on the other, a powerful bureaucratic class, the so-called deep state, that sees crypto as a direct threat to their control over the old-school dollar system. You're not just betting on Bitcoin anymore, you're betting on who wins this war.
So this brings us to the final verdict. The situation, honestly, it couldn't be any clearer. You have a potentially historic supply shock that's already underway. The big institutional buyers are here. The government is hoarding. The train may have already left the station. But there's a saboteur on board.
Let's just boil it all down. You've got the White House with a stated public goal to hodl, backed by the full force of an executive order. And then you have this shadowy countermove, a potential deep state faction aiming to dump and completely undermine that very policy. Two factions, two goals, one massive outcome for the future of money.
So here's your choice. Are you on Team Diamond Hands? Do you trust the law, the official statements, and the absolutely unstoppable macroeconomic forces of the supply shock? Or are you on Team Paper Hands? Do you believe the leak is real, that internal sabotage is going to win, and that the entrenched powers will never, ever let Bitcoin succeed?
Ultimately, this explainer puts the decision squarely in your hands. A historic policy versus a terrifying rumor. An unstoppable force meets an immovable object. The future is unwritten. So the only question left is, who are you betting on?